what's really happening. And you have to know that it's a pain. It's a pain every day, and we look forward to death every day. And if you want if you protect the democracy, if you protect normal life, you have to help us. That's the main, and that's a main skill nowadays.
Thank you so much, Anna, for such a powerful message and for sharing these heartbreaking videos and powerful presentation overall. Mr. Abdul Patel, he couldn't join us today, but he is very disappointed because of these visa challenges. He couldn't participate today and couldn't be with us today, but he says that he is looking forward to joining us later. And our final note would be on lobbying practices in Central Asia, particularly in Kazakhstan. What can I say? Again, I'm Dina Sheikh Islam and I represent KISAP Group based here in Nur-Sultan, Kazakhstan. It focuses on policy monitoring and evaluation, including legislative monitoring and regulatory analysis. Since lobbying in Kazakhstan is not legal yet, hopefully yet, I will briefly sum up, not lobbying activity per se, but because it's not legal in Kazakhstan yet, but the legal framework and attempts to legalize it. According to the Constitution of Kazakhstan, only the government and president have the formal right to lobby or put pressure on parliamentarians. For example, the president has the right to announce the urgent consideration of a certain bill or prioritize consideration of a certain bill. When a bill is introduced for discussion, the party that proposed it is interested in its adoption as a rule, and therefore they take all possible measures to achieve their goal. Thus, the president himself or the prime minister, members of the cabinet of ministers, the chairman of the National Security Council, they have the right to attend discussions on bills and, if necessary, speak in support of any of them. In their speeches, they have the opportunity to draw the attention to legislators to those aspects of the bill that cause the most controversy or that meet their interests. Also, we encounter such a phenomenon when interested parties and individual enterprises lobby certain government decisions in their favor, i.e. shadow lobbying with its own rules, unspoken, and it's done behind the scenes, of course, by a certain circle of people. So it's not about really knowing how, but more about knowing who. This circle, as a rule, includes large financial and industrial corporations and important foreign investors, mostly in oil and gas and mining. Probably these parties were involved in numerous attempts to legalize lobbying activities in Kazakhstan. By the way, the first bill on lobbying was introduced in 1996, but like the following ones, it was sent for revision. According to the experts, all of these legislative initiatives pursued the interests of businesses only, large corporations in particular, but not the public. Over the time, though, the lobbyists stopped promoting the adoption of such a law altogether, because apparently they realized that they were doing just fine without it. How else can we explain the very fact of our authorities that are they are not in no hurry, right, to adopt such a law, whilst before they would raise this issue every year? Overall, there have been about 8 attempts to legitimize lobbying here in Kazakhstan, but every time the bill did not pass. The latest bill was terrible, I must say. We could clearly see large businesses behind this initiative because they introduced unbearable demands for lobbying registration. For instance, to acquire a lobbying license, you need to maintain, like they said, that you need to maintain staff and no less than 10 attorneys and lawyers, and you gotta own your own building, and so on and so forth. So the rules basically served the interests of large corporations that can afford to meet such demands. Therefore, like lawyers, experts, parliamentarians, and civil society opposed this law bill because the bill did not reflect the interest of the public. It just reflected the interest of certain parties, i.e. these big corporations. So because if they adopted that bill, it would have simply legitimized the existing status quo, right? Large corporations bribing and buying off the parliamentarians. Also, the interesting thing is that the bills on lobbying almost never list or name the authors of the bill, despite the fact that each bill must have a legislator to sponsor it as a chief author for the process to be transparent. But in Kazakhstan, it's always kind of obscure and nobody knows who's behind it. Also, the expert community thinks that before adopting the law on lobbying right now, we should try to enforce existing laws that can lay foundation for effective lobbying practices, because we've got some tools to allow interested parties to legally influence decision making. First of all, we've got a law on private entrepreneurship, which obliges executive authorities to mandatory review draft regulations that affect the interest of entrepreneurs in expert councils, which in turn consist of accredited business associations. Thus, in order to participate in discussions and decision-making process, businesses have to be a member of these associations, and through them, they will be able to participate in these expert councils. In addition to that, the adoption of the law on the National Chamber of Entrepreneurs of the Republic of Kazakhstan, by the way, National Chamber of Entrepreneurs